nobody told me that, the, like, cable on our mic is a little loose. So, that's everybody else's bad, not mine. But I could have checked the game capture audio, I guess. Is it working now that I got the other thing to work? No. Huh? Hang on a second. Brain's shuffling. What could that be? Maybe it's because I'm using game capture instead of window capture. What happens if I use window capture and then delete this? Remove. Yes. Window capture. I saw some... Okay. That did not help. Now it's not capturing anything. Let's see. Oh, Medi said something earlier that I meant to read. I'm in lurk because I'm in call, so I can't hear. Hope you're having a good stream. Thank you. Not that he can hear me. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I guess it's overall been a scuff stream. I switched in like 10 seconds into the stream, I think. But I think when I messaged the server being like to kind of see if anyone wanted to pop in the chat, I think I said that wrong. Yeah, I meant like into stream, not after stream. But yeah. No. Game capture display. No, game capture. Specific window. Papa's Freezeria. Capture audio. Right? Yes. Okay. Move it down here. Oh, I saw the audio thing working. Yay! And now we resize it. And we move it to the right spot. And we're good. Yay! Okay. Figured it out. Haha! We can stream without Aaron. Yay! Little nerve-wracking. But yeah, this stream has been pretty scuffed. I switched in, and then I didn't like the way our hair looked, and I changed it, but then I realized that the way that Aaron did our hair the way that they did was because the way I wanted it was overstimulating. And then I guess I streamed for a whole hour with no sound. Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna go on a quick 15-minute break and let our brain shuffle around some and see if anyone else can switch in once the camera's not on our face. Just anyone else. Anyone else. I'll see y'all in... Someone will see y'all in 15 minutes, and it better not be me, because I don't know what I'm doing. Hello. How are we doing? Oh, changing that. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. Welcome back. Thank you. Yeah, so what happened was, somebody, consumed caffeine because the brownies I made the other day, I accidentally put way too much fucking coffee in it. Somebody ate these before. I think Venus thought that I was fronting before her. I was not. Because we had to go upstairs for dinner, and upstairs is scary, so I wasn't fronting. And she ate these, and then our bodies started getting weird, and then we had altar soup, and then it threw Venus out, who is not a fronter. And if the rest of this VOD had audio, then y'all would know why. It's because she doesn't fucking remember anything. But she did. And then she streamed without audio for the first whole hour, without game or our mic audio, because our mic is like 6 years old, and so you have to be really particular with like the little wire thingy, and she didn't know that because she doesn't remember anything. Like, she doesn't remember anything about like our daily life. Like, because that can happen in some systems that have like a lot of alters. It's like eventually your brain stops like splitting parts like with the purpose of helping out with real life things. It just kind of starts splitting parts to like hold memories or just chill out, and she's one of those, which is great. We love her, but like, yeah, she didn't know how to do any of this. So and then we went on a break, and I still forgot to take our meds, so I'm gonna awkwardly do that on stream. And yeah, what's up, y'all? It's good to see you. But yeah, Aaron, am here. But yeah, jokes aside though, shout out to Venus for trying. Although somebody else did our makeup, and they did our makeup really nice, but I sensory overload, I took it off, so. Yeah, I think it wasn't Echo. I don't know who it was, so I don't know. But yeah, life is weird. Your hair looks very fluffy. Yeah, I showered like 4 hours ago-ish, so it's still air drying because she's thick. Yeah, it's good to see you, Storm. And thank you for hanging out waiting for me, Fen. For those of y'all that see that Medi's in chat, she's on a phone call, so she can't hear us, but she's hanging out. My hair gets super fluffy when I wash it. Yeah, good to see you too. Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, I would have said that y'all got to meet Venus, but you didn't get to hear anything that she said. So, that's such a bummer. And I have no idea when she's gonna front next. That was the first time she'd fronted in like, since like a very shortly after our system cracked. So, no! Stop giving me Virginia politician ads! I don't give a fuck! Well, I do give a fuck. Please vote. Please vote. Who in their right minds is voting for Derek Anderson? God. Yeah, I live in Virginia, and so because we're like half like Democratic politicians that literally just live here to commute to DC, and people whose families have been here since like the Revolutionary War, our politics are very divided. Like my parents come from like the Bible Belt, and they're like, yeah, no, like, it's like yes, swing states are like a little scarier than even the deeply conservative states in some ways. Not in terms of like safety necessarily, but just in terms of like how racist the racist people are, but in terms of like how in your face those racist people are, because like in parts of the South, like being racist is the standard. So like, you know, but like here where it's like racists are like in their own little sub community, like they want to be heard. They want you to know that they're racist. They want you to know that they're different from the liberals that they live with. So yeah, I literally during election season every ad is like um every ad is like oh god, this democratic politician wants to feed their children, how disgusting. um and then the ads that I get, because I am left, I'm like on the left side. I don't like to call myself a Democrat anymore because the political party system has just like completely failed in my opinion. Um but like yeah, and then they're like, "Hey, so this guy literally just wants to like kill women. What are we going to do about that?" And it's like neither side are exaggerating, and that's literally just how Virginia politics are. I remember once my college marching band was asked to play at Governor Youngkin's inauguration, and like half of us said no, and the administration kind of got upset because they were like, don't think about the politics, think about like the impression that us in our program and the university can make if we go to this event. And all of us were like, ew, because of course the guy telling us that was a white man who's in charge of this mostly white university, and so all of us were like, ew, you know, oof, yeah, oof is right. Um, because the director of our program was like, obviously because like, um, the position I'm in as like the director of this program, who was like, because he's not the one that accepted the invitation necessarily, like the university did, right? So he was like, since we're going, I would like everyone to go. You know, because now that we're going to be there, I do not want it to be like, you know, we're this huge marching band and 5 people show up. That's completely understandable. I was on his side for that, but having again like the like vice president or whatever the university be like, don't think of the politics, think of the band. We were all like, no, what the hell? Yeah, it was really weird. My worst experience in marching band was the teacher canceling all of our trips because we got second place in a competition. What the hell? That's crazy. Also, was this when you lived in the Bible Belt? Because I do know that competitions in the South are different from how competitions are in Virginia. One of those trips was to London? Yeah, that sounds very Southern US marching band. I'm sorry, man, that sucks. Yeah. What the hell? Like, were y'all a Bands of America band? Were y'all like a Bands of America, like, uh, band? Or, okay, so y'all were like a Southern style, like, were y'all like a Southern style, like, jukebox style band? Cause some of the really good marching bands in the South are good, like, the way marching bands are good here. Cause band culture is very different here. Like, here, we do kind of like the DCI, the way that high school marching bands complete, or kind of the DCI thing, where, like, um, the shows, like, have, like, a storyline or, like, a concept, and they're very, like, theatrical, and there's dance and big props and stuff. Um, but, like, I know that, like, more like we work on one show the entire season, and it develops as the season goes. Each competition it gets a little different, a little better. Whereas I know that like a lot of high school bands, like further in the South, do yeah, like they have like a dance team, they have cheerleaders, like they do like more shows throughout the season than just one, because they're more of like the college marching band style type band rather than like the DCI style band where like you're again like competing the one show all year. Didn't have a choice if you were in marching band. You also had to do concert. Oh, that sucks. Yeah, we had a thing where like you had to be in a band class, but we didn't specifically require, or no, in a like music or arts class, but we didn't require like specifically um concert band. That's ew. I don't like that. Cause yeah, like you can't make kids like music that they don't like. So our thing was like, yeah, if you're in band, orchestra, choir, if you take art, like something, then like if you're like in the fine and performing arts program, then you can come in and chill out. Although our program was also a lot smaller because we were in like Southern Virginia, so like our programs aren't huge. In Northern Virginia they're huge, like twice the size, more than twice the size of my high school band program, which was about 60 wind players and then about 20 percussionists and 20 color guard. One of the lowest chairs playing trumpet, and had I played exactly the same at another program, I probably would have been first. The teachers also didn't like me. That sucks. Yeah, I got really lucky with my band director. Again, the one that I met up with for lunch recently, because he high-key kept me alive in middle school, in high school. So I'm still in contact with him, because, like, shout-outs. But, our choir teacher was also batshit insane. Yeah, I absolutely adore the band director and the choir director that I had in high school. Our orchestra director position was really cursed. My freshman year, we had a teacher that was like, she was good, but she took things very personally, which you really can't do as a teacher. Like, during high school, it was just like, oh, she's so dramatic. But now that I'm an adult, I'm like, oh, she just needed to have, like, more boundaries between, like, her self-esteem and, like, the students just being children kind of thing, if that makes sense. Like, obviously, if your students are just straight up bullying you, there's nothing you can do about that. Like, once kids, that's the frustrating part about teaching, is that once kids really decide for a reason or another, and it could be any variety of reasons, some of which can be legitimate, some of which are less legitimate. Like, once they decide they don't respect you, like, you just gotta hold on for your life. But, like, you know, it was just stuff like ninth grader on their phone during class, kid being, like, forced to do this by their parents and not really being that enthusiastic. And I think she kind of took that thing kind of personally, which frustrated her, and then that frustration showed to the students, and then the students got frustrated. It was just kind of an unfortunate loop. Also, can y'all hear the background music? Oh my gosh, is it not working? It's not! Has it not been working this whole time? Okay, that's so loud now. Okay, well, that's fine. I've been listening to that this whole time. It's been really nice. Anyway. I will say, though, I do appreciate that y'all are willing to sit here and listen to me ramble with no background music. Also, yeah, you can literally see my hair, like, depuffing itself as it air dries. Look at her go. Pin fucking straight. Yeah, I also really should do a karaoke stream. I've been pretty front stuck these past few weeks, so the whole time that I was thinking about doing a karaoke stream, I was like, no, I really don't want to do that without a model, but now I think I can. Now I think I can do it just, like, with this face camera kind of thing. It might look a little awkward, but, like, y'all are there to hear me, not see me at that point, you know? 'Cause for me, karaoke is a sport. Like, obviously, if I am having, like, a bad voice day, I'll just go up there and goof around, but my default behavior during karaoke, I'm showing the fuck off. If I'm singing in front of an audience, I'm gonna sing in front of an audience. You know? The problem is that, like, I like musical theater a lot, and so, like, the performances that I'm used to seeing are very, like, theatrical, like, performative, but, like, I tend to focus so hard on, and part of this is because I have asthma, I have chronic pain, etc., etc. I tend to not be as gestural when I'm singing as when I'm talking, and I kind of feel like the standing man emoji, which, like, I don't love, but I think I could do it, and who knows, maybe, like, being in front of a camera will make me, like, be a little more lively. I could even pivot this into a karaoke stream if I really felt like it, now that I think about it. I could do that. My brain is very scrambled right now. Again, I like doing Welcome to Horrorwood by Einstein Kills Again. That's awesome! my god, if y'all haven't heard that song, please go listen to it, and imagine being at a karaoke bar at like 8:30 p.m. and hearing that. And I say 8:30 because I think that's the funniest time to be at a karaoke bar, yeah. That's awesome. That's like the opposite of doing tequila. I always do it after someone else does a country song, as you should. Oh my goodness. But yeah, although I will warn people, I don't know why, maybe I'm just running in the wrong circles, but I see a lot of, like, ew Taylor Swift cringe, ew K-pop cringe in, like, not specifically in VTuber communities, but in, like, anime communities. I think good music is good music. So, I can and will be singing Taylor Swift and K-pop. So, yeah. So there's also that. Unless anyone has any, like, strong objections, like, if anyone in here is like, I fucking hate Taylor Swift, then obviously I'll just be like, okay, whatever, we take those. But, like, I do think that her most recent album had a major quantity over quality problem, which is, like, the world's coldest take. The only objectively bad music is bro country. I like to be very specific with that. The only objectively bad music is, like, Bible Belt, conservative, Christian, gun-totin', I hate my wife country music. Especially because that... Hang on, I'm gonna go on a whole rant. Let me change the subject of the stream to, like, just chatting. Let me change, like, the title and stuff, since chatting, maybe karaoke later? Karaoke, oh my gosh, sorry, karaoke. Let's see, just chatting for now. Brain, where was I? Right, so, country music, just like every other genre of, like, actual American music, was not made by white people. This one was made, it's all made by Native American people or black people. Like, jazz music did actually originate from the United States, unlike stuff like baseball and apple pie and whatever that people are like, that's American, but it didn't originate in America. Jazz music did. Jazz music is the root of, like, all modern American pop music, including country music, but country was a very specific, like, offset of jazz music that was known for having, like, very light or little to no percussion. And the reason that was, like, interesting is because, like, jazz, what set jazz apart from, like, more classical music was the emphasis on beats 2 and 4 rather than on beats 1 and 3. That's why there's jazz music that is jazz even without it being swung. Because for a lot of people, jazz is like the where instead of like right? But like that's why there's jazz music. Because like let me think off the top of my head. Like for classical music, it would be like 1, 2, 3, 4 you know, for like emphasis on beats 1 and 3. But when you put the emphasis on beats 2 and 4, like hang on. Like 1, 2, 3, 4 you know, like emphasis on beats 2 and 4 / on the off beats when you break it down into smaller units. But like you'll notice a lot of jazz music, like the ways that they put that emphasis on beats 2 and 4 like really heavily relies on the percussion, which is why like country music at the beginning of its development kind of stood out as its own like subgenre within jazz, the same way that blues did, which was really known for like its 12-bar structure, or like big band jazz, which like duh, trumpets, brass, more trumpets. And like there's more to it than that, but like I'm very quickly info-dumping here. But country music put that emphasis on beats 2 and 4 with like very little percussion, and that's kind of what made it novel, along with it kind of being you know, like kind of like the subject matter of the songs was like a little different, you know, especially because like obviously like it was being developed by like groups of Black Americans that were like in the Midwest. Go figure. But for some reason over time, like as like again like like, to be clear, there's nothing wrong with being Christian and there's nothing wrong with being a white man, but you know when people, like, those two things are their entire being. Like, their music is not about telling you about that they love God or that they love their family. It's about the fact that, like, they're a Christian. They want you to know that they're a Christian, and they want you to know that they love their family, even though half the lyrics are like, yeah, and then I slap my wife's ass and kick her in the gut, or something stupid like that. Anyway, as music kind of started getting taken over, like, a kind of, not appropriated. I don't want to say appropriated because that's a very specific process. I don't think that's what happened here. I think country music split into two genres. The kind of, like, Dolly Parton, a more modern example, like Carrie Underwood type of, or even some of Taylor Swift's songs off of Red. Like, where, like, okay, that's, like, actual country music, even though it is a lot more reliant on pop music. You can tell it's country music even without an accent. Like, if you listen to Mean by Taylor Swift, the re-recording of it that she did, like, within the past year, she loses the country accent. Because her country accent was fake, surprise, surprise. But I don't blame her, because she really liked country music, and that was in a time where, like, if you did not have, like, the world's strongest accent, you would get mocked viciously. And she was, like, 17, and she just liked country music and wanted to write country music. So I'm not gonna fault her for that. But, I always loved the comment in the Bible Belt that all the metal I listen to is about drugs and women and cars, and it's all about their country music, is right. But it kind of split into, like, those, like, or even Halsey, she has a really good song called, like, You Should Be Sad. That is a country song, doesn't have a lick of a southern accent in there, and you can tell it's a country song the whole time. Whereas a lot of kind of, like, what I call, like, bro country, if they didn't have an accent, it would just be a normal pop song. The only thing distinguishing their music from modern pop music is the lyrics, which, that's what sets every song apart from every other song, is the lyrics. So, like, the lyrics really don't have anything to do with the genre. Lyrics tend to match with genres, not the other way around. You know, I don't know if that makes sense, but I can elaborate on that later if anyone has questions. But, like, yeah, just, it's not country music. Like, by definition, by, like, musical definition of how genres work, like, that kind of country music is not country music, and that's not me being elitist. That's not me being, like, gatekeepy, like, ooh, like, oh my god, like, if you, like, again, like, those people that are like, baby metal's not real metal music, where meanwhile every, like, actual metalhead fucking loves baby metal, because it's amazing. Like, it's like that, where, like, it's not just me being like, oh no, like, country music it's like very sacred thing, but, like, no, it's just that, like, if your music without a southern accent is literally indistinguishable from pop music, from, like, non-country pop music, then you're not a good songwriter. That means you're not writing country music, you're writing standard American pop music and failing to understand what made country music a genre in the first place. Yeah. Baby metal slaps. It does slap. Oh my god, I love baby metal. But yeah, I just, oh shoot, what was I gonna say? Yeah. But yeah, I think Taylor Swift's most recent album had a big quantity over quality issue, because normally she spends a lot more time on her albums, and normally she doesn't write albums while she's actively on the world's biggest tour in history. And I think what happened is she did this really, really smart thing where, when the masters to her music got sold to someone she didn't want to, she took Kelly Clarkson's advice and did the thing where, like, she re-records all the songs so she has her own masters again. And oh, hi, Bae! 6967H Pretty, thank you for following. I'm ranting about Taylor Swift. It's nice to meet you. I hope you enjoy sticking around. But like, she did the smart thing, right? And she not only did that to, like, take back control of her music, but she, like, also, like, planned this whole big tour. Literally, like, okay, well, every fan base has people like that. It's just that Taylor Swift happens to be, like, the biggest person right now So people are like, Swifties are the absolute worst. And I'm like, they're not actually that much worse than other fandom. It's just right now they happen to be the loudest. You know? Like, you'll get roasted by, like, a big fan of anybody. Yeah. Sorry. To be clear, because they're the biggest ones, like, they are definitely the most, like, obtrusive. But that's not, like, unique to their fan base. That's just what happens to any fan base. I don't hate her nor like Taylor Swift. Okay, this is where I pull the okay. This is where I have a very specific opinion that might be difficult because I'm pretty sure most of the people in my chat right now are like assigned male at birth people. But it's because she is one of the first artists. She's one of the only artists that like got really popular that wrote like music about what it feels like to be a girl rather than like a woman. Like, she was writing these really like journalistic style songs about like her freshman year of high school, and it wasn't like from the point of view of a 22-year-old where it's like college wasn't, where it's like high school was a war zone. Like, it was like, I made best friends with this girl named Abigail, and we had our first boyfriends together, and we're still friends to this day, and I remember walking to my first class and being so nervous, and like, you know, like, it feels a little silly, but like, it's just one of those things where like the way that women tend to relate to each other is very different from the way that men tend to relate to each other and like tell stories, and even more different when you're younger and like you tend to be more separated by gender just because like, ew, boys are gross, like that kind of thing when you're a little kid. That's I now understand that. I've asked that question a lot but never got the answer. Yeah, it's just that like a lot of music about like, there a lot of music where like being a woman or being a girl was the subject matter, was like Katy Perry, like Firework, where it's like self-confident. Well, that one's not specifically about being a girl, where it's like, or even like Girls Just Want to Have Fun, like that's about like being an older teenager and wanting to go party. To be fair to Swifties, I also get roasted by metalheads for not liking Metallica. Yeah, exactly. Just fans of people that are like hyper fanatics about things are just crazy no matter where you go. But like oh shoot, where was I going? Right, and it's, or like, I don't know, I think that a lot of the time, like, I think that again, just because of the way that people of different genders in Western culture tend to end up talking to each other to communicate their feelings more or less, it makes it so that like men hear Taylor Swift songs and they're like, I don't know anything about this boyfriend, but like for people that were like socialized as girls, women growing up, it's kind of like, I guess that also just kind of comes with being a minority, you know, like kind of like how like all Asian people, like you just kind of have a bond just by merit of being Asian. Like at my university, like it wasn't considered rude. Like, okay, like in a place where there were a lot more Asian people, it definitely would have been rude to like walk up to a person and be like, you're Asian, I'm Asian, let's exchange phone numbers and be friends. But there were so few Asian people at my university that like it was totally okay to do that. We did that all the time. That's like how we met each other. Like there was even a group chat that had like every black person that went to my university in it. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. So like I think that's also part of it, is like just kind of people that grew up in spaces where like, you know, like that kind of talk amongst women just wasn't taken seriously, and now like, oh my god, it's top 1 on the Billboard charts. That's crazy. And it's just this song about her like telling this story again, like the song I'm talking about is 15. It's from her second album, and again, it's just her like telling the story in a song form, and she shows great skill in like getting those lyrics to sound like lyrics rather than a journal entry. But it feels like you met this person while you were wandering around town and you just started talking about each other's life stories. And it was like, yeah, I used to have this boyfriend, but like out of it I got this really good friend and I'm still friends with her now, and it's like the best thing ever. As opposed to like a song delving into the emotion by talking about, like, I think for a lot of people, like especially AMAP people, I think that to feel the emotion that the other person is feeling, the emotion needs to be described. But I think for a lot of people that were socialized as women, AFAB people, like it we feel it from hearing about the situation. You know what I mean? And that's why like 15 went so viral. Like actually literally that song almost didn't make it onto Fearless because the male like head of the record label was like, this song won't sell, like it's too personal. And the producer that Taylor Swift that was working with was like, take the CD home and show it to your wife. And his wife started crying listening to it because just the way that she was talking about. Actually, another thing is like, yeah, like the ways that the lyrics were written, even though she was older than 15, she didn't like change like the verbiage or like the descriptions that she was using to like age up her perspective. That song the parts of that song that happened when she was 15, those were written from the perspective of a 15-year-old girl. And like whereas a lot of people would have kind of written back like, well, I remember being 15 but I see it this way now. But no, she wrote it how she saw it when she was 15 as the majority of the song. And I also think that was relevant because like when you're an adult woman, I don't know what this is like, but I can imagine that if I were a 30-year-old woman and for the first time in music somebody was able to like recapture that feeling of what it feels and sounds like to see something when you're a 15-year-old girl, I think I would cry too. So yeah, that's like that's kind of the appeal of Taylor Swift, I think, for a lot of women. And like I think that over time, as she's worked with different producers and stuff, I think the current producer that she spends a lot of time with, Jack Antonoff, has put a lot of like sameness into her music that I don't necessarily like. Like, for example, I think that he has a tendency, I think that Taylor Swift by default puts a lot more variety in like the chords that she uses, whereas Jack Antonoff has a stronger tendency to use the same chords to say the same things or to convey the same emotions, if that makes sense. So that's part of why I don't. And also like he's a very like quiet producer. I miss her noisy music. I miss Speak Now. I miss Fearless. I miss Red. Like where again like the music is loud. It has heavier bass. It has stronger percussion. Like the guitars have like overdrive on them, like that kind of thing. Cause again, like before that, it was like Paramore was really, really novel because it was like a female-led rock band, along with other female-led rock bands that happened before, but I'm talking about like around the time that Taylor Swift came up, right? But that was very like, I'm a badass woman, but again, like, Fearless was like, yep, I'm in high school, you know, and that's great. But it had the same kind of like appeal in sound as like some of the songs off of All We Know Is Falling did. You know, not nearly as like rock heavy, but like it had, hi Twilight, hi baby, but it had like, again, like that noisier quality to it, that I think a lot of people liked. So yeah, I think that the way, right, words. Going back to the Eras Tour thing that I was saying, I think that when her music got stolen from her, legally it wasn't stolen, but we all know it was stolen. When her music got stolen from her, she did the smart thing where she not only started re-recording her albums in order of popularity and re-releasing them, but she also released old versions of tracks that the fan base knew existed, but had never been released before. Like some people, I saw somebody saying like the 10-minute version of All Too Well, like she just made that up. But no, she's been talking about that since before that album dropped. She was like, yeah, I don't know, it's like a little, it was an interview from, again, when she was like 18 maybe, like where she was like, no, yeah, she was 18, where she was like, yeah, they were asking her how the upcoming album's coming up. She was like, yeah, I don't know, it's just a little tough because like I can write songs all day, I can write 10-minute long songs, but like you really can't put them on an album, right? Like I'm working with a record label, so it has to sell. And so everyone's been like, 10-minute long song, where is it? You know what I mean? And then later she revealed like it was All Too Well, and then like 8 years later, like she releases a 10-minute long version. So that's also why people were so hype about the 10-minute long version of All Too Well. Like it was kind of like an Easter egg thing for a number of years. But yeah, and then she did the smart thing, and then while everyone was feeling really nostalgic, she started the Eras tour, where like she's performing songs from every album and she's announcing the re-recordings and everything as part of that tour, and it's really cool. And then I think that she just got lost in the sauce, and instead of being like, yes, I'm going to ride this popularity until I burn out, and then I'm going to take a break, and then I'm going to write, like, the next best album, she, like, very haphazardly wrote this album on tour. And the thing is, a lot of the lyrics are bad, but I don't think it's because she's a worse lyric writer than she used to be. I think it's just because stuff that normally would have been edited out if she wasn't actively touring, I just think they didn't get edited out. Like, I think that that's her like that's what anyone's like first second draft of lyric writing would look like, no matter how good they are. I'm sure that even Shakespeare had some crazy ass looking drafts, but for some reason, like, this album got released before it was fully out of the draft stage, and it just has a lot of stuff that just is not successful and it was trying to do. It's a lot of, like, lyrics that are saying the same thing over and over, and it's because, again, like, during the editing process, she'd probably have picked one of those lyrics to keep, and the verse would have been half as long as it ended up being, but that's not what happened. So that's kind of disappointing. That, like, she had this great tour, she was getting really great publicity, old fans were coming back, new fans were enjoying her older music, and then she just 30 track long album, take it or leave it. Ugh. But yeah, I have not been keeping up with chat. AMAB people, especially white ones, are also more used to every piece of media catering to relating to their life experience, so when something doesn't align with that, they tend not to understand it. Yeah, I think, again, that kind of comes back to the thing of, like, I notice that a lot of the time when I'm talking to, like, white men about my experiences as an Asian woman, I need to find a way that they experience a negative emotion that may or may not be, like, remotely like, if I tell them, like, oh, it's like when this happens to you, like, I try to, like, when I talk to a woman about it, I tend to find a scenario where I'm like, shoot, there was one that I used that was that anyway, but, like, I'm able to, like, come up with, like, a scenario that is not the same, but I'm like, imagine that, but, like, times 10, and they're like, oh, shit, or, like, imagine this kind of discrimination, except, like, if you call the police, no one will help you. Like, or, like, if the police show up, you have no idea if they're there to protect you or to harm you, because that's what black people experience. It's like when police arrive on a scene, they don't know if they're going to be protected from harm or if they're going to be, like, assumed to be the one doing the harm, no matter how suspicious or not suspicious they look, like, that kind of thing. It's like, imagine that imagine, like, a bank is being robbed and the police show up and you don't know if you're going to be helped or not, right? But, like, if I tell a man that, he's like, but, like, they would help me, or, like, I would just tell them, like, I'm not the bank robber, and it's like, well, they won't listen to you. You know. In my experience, young boys tend to be raised in a way that makes it more difficult for them to properly develop empathy for other people. I don't know exactly why, but it's frighteningly common and basically happened to me too. It is. And part of it is a language thing. I think that men aren't taught how to use their language to relate to other people. They are only taught how to use language to get other people to relate to them. Like, they are taught how to express their emotions, like, to a caregiver, and they are not taught how to, like, get along with their peers. Right? Like, that's why men get into relationships with women as adults, and they kind of start treating that woman like their mom, is because they think, okay, I need to communicate with you on a deeper level than I do with my friends. How do I communicate with you on a deeper level? I tell you what I need. But that's not what that is. I blame my hyper empathy on my autism. I was raised to be selfish and basically awful. Well, here's the thing. I think that people naturally have varying levels of, like, emotional empathy, right? Everyone, though, has to learn cognitive empathy. Everyone has to learn how to use language to be empathetic and how to use that empathy to actually connect to people rather than just understand them. And I think that women are taught that because we have to have enough cognitive empathy to take care of people, and men are not taught how to take the feelings that they're feeling and think cognitively about them. They're just taught you're feeling a feeling and someone needs to fix it for you. Something needs to fix it. And it doesn't have to be you, but it does. I think it's more that the empathy is beaten out of young men than that they never had it. Exactly. Like, the level of, like, emotional empathy you have, like, that's biological. That has to do with shit that happens way before you ever learn how to talk. Stuff like that. But the cognitive empathy part, you can start learning that at any age, at any time, in any amount. You know, it is quite literally a skill. Connecting with people is quite literally a skill. That's why some people are better at interviewing than others. That's why some people are better at, like, journalism or at being teachers. It's because it's a skill. Based, Aaron. Thank you. But, yeah, I have a lot of opinions on that. Because, hi, baby. What is it? Do you want to come say hi? Hello. Cause, yeah, I was the same way. I've always been extremely empathetic, like, in terms of, like, sensing other people's emotions, understanding other people's emotions. But I had no idea what to do with them. Because for me, I would be able to understand that they're upset, but I would, because I was outside of their brain, right? I'd understand they're upset, but then I'd be like, okay, but this is how you fix your problem. But that's not helpful, because when I didn't understand that, like, when you're upset, your nervous system is so dysregulated that it doesn't matter how good or comforting the feedback that you're receiving is. Any feedback just feels like an attack, because your nervous system isn't like, ah! Right? And it took me a number of years to learn, like, no, like, that's why people don't immediately talk solutions. It's not because they're being irrational. It's because they're working with what the signals their brain is giving them, and the signals their brain is giving them is that everything hurts. You know? I'm enjoying this discussion, but unfortunately I think I need to lay down for a bit. I'll leave it open to keep that view count up. Oh, thank you, Fen! Twilight being like, eat my tail. Yeah. Alright, Fen, have a good night. Thank you for hanging out. But yeah, that is my little info dump. I think that it's like, actually, I don't know if you were here, Storm, but I remember, Chaos, who's another VTuber friend, was talking about, like, yeah, I feel like parasocial relationships are different for men than women, because I notice that the way a lot of women talk about it is more of, like, a scary thing than an uncomfortable thing. Yeah, they are. And I was like, okay, well, that's because it is scary rather than uncomfortable. You know, and he was kind of like, oh, I feel like that's because men tend to be a lot more lonely, and that's why parasocial relationships with women tend to develop. And I was like, yes, that is true, but I think that doesn't account for why do parasocial relationships get scary from men. And that's because when they get scary from men, it's because that man has not yet learned to respect women to not disrespect women because we're people. The way that I phrase it is that young boys are taught to respect girls because we're girls. They are taught to respect girls because, in, like, a misguided attempt at addressing, like, the inequalities of the world, they are not taught that, like, the world is unfair, so you need to be fair. They are taught that women are weak and you need to help them. Or that women are different and you need to help them. But that's not what that really means, right? It's pretty prevalent, exactly. Like, so they're taught to respect us because they're women. They're not taught to not disrespect us because we are human beings. And when men have not yet learned that is when it goes from, like, hey, I'm not sure, but I think I'm getting some signals from you, so I just wanted to check, like, do you just see me as a friend, or, like, would you want to go on a date? And I'm totally cool with that. And I go, oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, I tend to be really, like, friendly, bubbly, and that totally comes across as flirty. So, like, yeah, no worries. I do just see you as a friend, but you're lovely. Right? As opposed to, well, you've been flirting with me this whole time, so why isn't this happening? Right? That is not because they are lonely. That is because they are unkind. That is because they don't respect you. You know? That kind of thing. Where, like, that's the part that makes parasocial relationships scarier for women. Yeah, because a lot of the time parasocial relationships between from a woman to a man, like kind of thing that you see in K-pop is like it is still very scary. Like Susangs fans that are like stalkers that like track the like K-pop boys' locations and like they follow them around airports and stuff like that. Like that is still terrifying. Um but a lot of the time it's that's not because like they don't see it as doing them a favor. A lot of men tend to see their like stalkerish behavior as like doing us a favor. Like not just from them as an individual, but again from them like as a man. As opposed to like me as a singular person. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah. They're both equally dangerous, but they are dangerous in different ways. That makes sense. Okay, cool. But yeah, absolutely no judgment. I totally get it. Like it's like again, like the biggest example is like I remember in my freshman year in my dorm, like the majority of my friend group was guys, not by like a 90% thing, but it was like there were like 3 girls and 4 guys, right? Um one of the other two girls was like also on like dating apps and stuff like I was, but like she didn't really talk about it as much, and the other one just wasn't on dating apps. And so the people I was talking about dating apps most with was the guy friends. And I remember the first night that I got on Tinder, I got I think over 100 like likes, because like Tinder has that page where they're like 99 people liked you. If you give us $5, we'll show you who. Don't ever pay for those. But like my guy friends were like, I've been on this app for 2 months and I'm still at 50. That weighs on your self-esteem. That feels like shit. Like it hurts your feelings. I've used a dating app before and literally never matched with a single person. Yeah. Cause like, and that's a symptom of the fact that women are a lot more scared when they use dating apps. Like when I used Tinder, it was me and one of my friends being like, okay, are there any red flags? Does he look dangerous? Does he have friends? Does he only have pictures with men? Because that means he might be, you know what I mean? Like, or like, oh my god, he said this. Like, I don't want to make assumptions, but like, I really don't like what that could mean. Like, oh my god, like, kind of thing. Where as for men, it's like, yeah, she's hot, I'll go. But then again, like for men that are looking for like an actual date on a dating app as opposed to just like, yeah, she's hot, I'll go. Like it feels like complete shit. Like yeah, like it's men are just seen as less desirable in dating scenes, and that sucks. Like and again, like same thing I said is like for the male loneliness thing where it's like, well, part of that is this, part of that is that. Same thing. For like part of it is that like we're scared. But again, like a large part of it is that like like a man being single is just like seen very differently from a woman being single. Where it's kind of like a woman being single also still feels like shit, but it's not treated as like, oh, you are not like fulfilling the hang on, no, I gotta be careful with how I word this. Because obviously, like, there is stigma for women around being single too, like, especially. Oh, wait, actually, okay. The male loneliness epidemic is a real thing, but the cause is still the patriarchy. Yeah, exactly. Like, that's what I'm trying to get at. Yeah, let me get myself out of the weeds. The issue is that, like, the patriarchy has exacerbated back on itself, so that now we simultaneously exist in a space where men are both, like, where men and women in. My cat has the zoomies. That in different ways, both genders are both pedestalized and, like, treated and objectified. Or pedestalization is also a form of objectification. But, like, women are seen as more desirable than men, but we're seen as desirable objects, not as desirable people. And men are seen as less desirable than women, but they're not worried about getting sexually assaulted on the street in broad daylight, like that kind of thing where like it's different kinds of objectification, it's different kinds of imbalance, but it all roots back to this idea that men are somehow in a higher position than women, you know? Because, like, even the way that, like, weaponized incompetence is what people call it when a man is like, oh, well, no one ever taught me how to do laundry, so I'm just gonna keep not doing it for the rest of my life, because, you know, I just won't do it right. You would if you learned, right? It's kind of like that, where, like, um, you know, like, men usually aren't taught how to do household chores as young boys, and that's not their fault. But what is their fault is them not wanting to learn as an adult. You know, that kind of thing. And that goes the other way too. Like, hello. Like, I wasn't taught how to, actually, no, I have been taught how to. But for example, let's say, like, as a young girl, I was never taught how to, like, replace, use my spare tire, you know? Like, it would be a bummer, and I was like, damn, yeah, I never got taught that because I was a little girl. But I can Google it now. You know? Like, that's what my immediate response would be, is like, okay, I'm gonna Google this and figure it out, whereas, like, a lot of men's response is to be like, well, I don't know, so someone else better do it. You know, that kind of thing. But again, that's not men in general, that is, like, the specific type of man that is relevant to the point I'm trying to make at this exact moment. Yeah, again, it's always hard to have these kinds of discussions because, like, it's hard not to use language that overgeneralizes, like, the specific population you're trying to talk about to, like, an entire demographic, you know, because, like also, like, within different races, the patriarchy looks different. In different regional areas, the patriarchy looks different and has different effects on young boys and everything like that. So yeah, the English language isn't specific enough for discussions like this not to be taken the wrong way. That's yes! And again, that's what happened with the Genshin thing that I rant about all the time with the mistranslation, is because, like, there's not enough words in English to actually translate things from Mandarin. Because there's, like, 15 different honorifics in Mandarin, and, like, English speakers look at it and they're like, I guess that means brother, but that's not what it means. But that's not what it means. You know, it's just that we don't have that many words to describe relationships, you know? It's because, like, it is so far beyond a friend and it's not romantic, and so people go, ah, like family. No. You know what I mean? I've tried to learn Mandarin as a native English speaker, and it's hard, yeah. It's a lot, even after it got simplified. It's, yeah. Yeah. Our English brains are not wired for Mandarin. Yeah, they are and they aren't. It's basically the best way that I have found to word it is that you need to give up on the notion that you will be able to find a specific word or a phrase, right? Sometimes the best way to understand a word in another language is to not try to find the matching word or, like, even short sentence in English. Sometimes it means literally, like, writing a paragraph about what that word means in your native language. You know? Like, it is a concept because, like, language is the thing that we use to describe concepts, right? There are concepts that exist that don't have words in English, right? That don't have their own words in English. So, like, you need to, when you come across a word that just doesn't make sense to you, you need to figure out what the concept behind the word is, not necessarily just what the word is. You know what I mean? Because, like, the word melancholy in English, the way that it would be defined in a dictionary if you looked it up would probably be, like, extreme sadness, or, like, a deep-seated feeling of sadness and longing or whatever. But, like, if I were trying to explain that to another English speaker, I would say, like, it's like when you think about an old friend that you used to have and you know that you can't really contact them again, and you really, really deeply miss them, but, like, the fact that you miss them is not attached to, like, how well you know them now. It is purely attached to how well you knew them when you were younger, and that's a really, like, sad feeling to have. Like, you are mourning something that isn't technically gone. Like, that person's still out there, but, like, not the way that you want it to be, right? It's a whole story, but like that's a more accurate way of describing the concept that drove English speakers to develop that word as its own word than just, yeah, you're really sad. Because then it's like, well, then why don't you say that you're really sad? And it's because it is its own concept. Every word has its own concept behind it, even if by definition they look really similar. That word is its own separate word for a really specific reason. Yeah, I follow a guy that speaks like 16 languages conversationally, and he often talks about how hard it is to switch between some languages that have wildly different grammatical rules. Yeah. Also, I will say, my advice for Mandarin is just to not focus too hard on the grammar, because, like, luckily, I mean, most languages are like this, where, like, if your grammar isn't perfect, people will understand it, but with Mandarin, you can say the words in whatever order you want, and people will still get the gist of it. You know what I mean? It'll sound a little weird. Like, you know that example where it's like the order that adjectives typically go in English? Like, you can't say the green big dragon. You have to say the big green dragon. Because green big dragon just sounds weird. The angry green big dragon sounds weird. Angry big green dragon or big green angry dragon. Those two sound right. But angry green big dragon, that sounds weird. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that. Where, like, it sounds off. You'll get some tilted heads, but everyone will know that you mean a dragon that is big, green, and angry. You know? Yeah. So yeah, don't worry about it too much. Mandarin grammar is, like, a lot more forgiving than English grammar is, I think. The funny thing is even that rule of adjective order has exceptions like big bad wolf. No, because the color, because big bad wolf, because for example, like, like what I just said, like, big angry green dragon and angry big green dragon both sound correctly. So that's actually not an exception. That follows what I was talking about, because the issue is where the color goes. You can't say the color first. The color has to go right before the thing. You can't, like, blue big flower sounds weird, big blue flower, because people see the word blue as being more attached to the flower than the word big, you know? Whereas, like, big and bad are both equally attached to the word wolf to people's heads. You know? It's weird. And I think it's because big and bad... Stop! In 300 feet, turn left! What do you mean? Why does this have ads? Anyway. The correct adjective order in English that big bad breaks is... Oh, well, because some of them are interchangeable. Like opinion and size generally are interchangeable. You know what I mean? Is kind of what I'm getting at. Like, but yeah, color, origin, material, and purpose, like, those are pretty set. Like, after you get to, it depends on what you're talking about usually, but yeah, that's what I mean, is like, the color being super attached to the subject has so few exceptions. But like, big bad wolf, big bad wolf, big angry dragon, angry big dragon, like, or angry big angry green dragon, whatever, like, that has a lot more exceptions to it, you know what I mean? So like, I guess I consider that one as being less of a rule. Grammar is fake, basically. That's the point we're getting at here, is that grammar is fake no matter what language you're speaking, so it's all alright. Did Twilight finally calm down? Yeah. No more zoomies. I knew English was fake, yeah. And English is also unique because when we take in loan words, we don't translate all of them into our phonetic system. We just kind of spell it the way that they spell it. So, like, you know, like when Japanese takes in loan words, like, they put it into their phonetic system, even if they sound a little weird. But we anglicize its pronunciation, but we don't have a consistent pattern for that the way that, like, Japanese does. So, yeah, that's a little funky. Yeah. It really is two languages in a trench coat. But yeah, it's been an hour and a half of talking. Also, I do have, like, this could turn into a karaoke stream in the... Uh-oh. Well, I was gonna switch to drawing, but my tablet isn't charging. Did I accidentally turn off my extension cord? No. aren't you working? Why aren't you charging? I don't like that. No, please don't. I'm using my Nintendo Switch charger. Don't break. No. Uh-oh. Is it just this charger? I hope not. I like this charger. It's long. Oh no. Because this other one I have, like, isn't quite long enough to reach over there. But is it... Okay, no. It looks like it's probably an issue with my iPad then. Because this literally was just charging something. Let me just restart my iPad then. Fight the charger. We do B-app in here. No, Siri, I don't need your help. How do I... Hang on. I'm just gonna power that off and then power it back on and see if that helps. I don't know. Thing's probably like 4 or 5 years old. Definitely not actually 4 or 5 years old. It's like 3 years old. But, you know, Apple devices, they be wildin'. And then also, like, even then, that's, like, quote-unquote, like, I don't want to say the word proper English, but you know what I mean. Like, African-American vernacular English has its own rules. There are, dialects of English that are, like, mixed in with other languages that have developed in ethnic neighborhoods, that kind of thing. Like, I know that, there's a specific dialect that's developing on, like, the poles right now, or, like, or like, Antarctica. Because, like, there's all the researchers there are, like, living in, like, the same facilities, even though they all speak different languages. They're all from different countries. Okay, yeah, that did fix it. Okay. Even though they're all from, like, different countries, they're all kind of in the same facility, and so as a result, they just kind of started mishmashing all their languages together and is creating its own dialect. Okay, not even its own dialect of English, just its own dialect in general, which is really cool. Of someone learning Jamaican, and it's just an English dialect. Well, now it is. It did unfortunately get, like, you know, colonization happened to Jamaica. Rip. Alright. So. Although, I will say, actually, I probably shouldn't do karaoke today, because, actually, I think I probably want to, like, test out my sound things. Like, do I want to add reverb and stuff like that while I'm live? And then how do I do that in OBS? Like, all that bullshit. I should figure that out off stream. Like, people were making fun of him for saying he was speaking Jamaican. It basically sounded like speaking English with a Jamaican accent, but, like, that's the language. There are a few different words, but it's mostly based on English. Yeah, like, they took on a lot of loan words as a result of globalization, and so now it really is, like, yeah. Yeah, and that also varies from, like, region to region within Jamaica, too. So, sorry, hang on. Ooh! But yeah, kind of the same thing happens in, like, Japanese, where they're like, why did you just say that word in English? And it's like, well, there is a Japanese, words. There's, like, a Japanese word for that, but, like, they don't really use it anymore because of loan words. Yeah, like, he was learning, like, an American dialect of Jamaican, rather than, like, Jamaican being a dialect of English overall. Gotcha, that's really cool. Yeah. But yeah, like, listening to, like, like, for example, I was on a walk with my friend Anju and their family, and it was really early in me picking up Japanese just from, like, hanging out with her and her mom. And I was like, Nobuga-san, like, what is the word stripe? Because we were trying to remember the word for zebra, and it's the Japanese word for stripe and the Japanese word for horse, which is uma. And neither of us could remember the Japanese word for stripe. So I said, Nobuga-san, how do you say stripe in Japanese? And she turned around and she went, stripe! And then turned back around. I was like, no, Nobuga-san, the other one! Nihongo! So that was really funny. You know, stuff like that. Gotta study more languages. Yeah, I I study kind of like the structure of languages more. I'm really bad at learning vocab. Like if like with oh my god, like again, with Japanese, I'm like, well, I know they're excited about something, but I don't know what. You know? I know that whatever that word that was just said is the subject of the sentence, but I don't know what the subject of the sentence is. Like that's kind of the problem I have. Or like I really like studying like for example, like just like how in English you can go like, "Oh, really? Oh, really? Oh, really?" Like and those all have like different implications, like honto ga honto ni uh all those like honto suffix like particle will have like different implications that are like both that are implied by like the tonality of the sentence, but that are also implied by like the particle that is attached to. Also, yeah, I do get kind of pissed off when people are like, obviously